here. Inside the classroom, I'm going to talk about some other things as well. I've been asked, in the classroom we call discarnate beings or spirits, basically humans that died. The human part died, and the spirit, the program that was left, survived. And we call them boogers. You'll hear that on some of the tapes that I'm putting out on my YouTube site, 3SPM. Now, so I was asked how to get rid of them, or how to approach because they're also considered to be medicine. Because it's the getting rid of them. Excuse me, I'm getting over a small cold. It's the getting rid of them that is an exercise, and T used to call it exercising your muscle. In other words, you're building a muscle and how to do it. And the first way to build your muscle, I believe one of the first things that they gave us was to label the influence. So therefore, if you know that you have a problem with a short temper, for instance, when it's not something, when it's not something life-threatening, because you can understand having a short temper when things are life-threatening around you, to others or yourself, indirectly or directly, immediately or not. Anyway, but primarily things that just enter your head that, for instance, are short-tempered, then you could label that influence. Think of that as an influence, as something foreign from you. It doesn't mean you're not taking responsibility for your actions when we act on things, but that's an excuse. Often people say you can't think of it as spirits, because then you're like blaming it on somebody else when it's your problem. Well, your problem is with accepting the spirit or not. That's where you have the problem. And voicing the spirit's thoughts is accepting the spirit to a degree. And the more you do it, the more you're entertaining that spirit. You're being a host, human flesh, mind for that spirit. You're adding that spirit's mind to your mind. The spirit is mind. It's a program. It's software, like software writing the hardware. And the body, the physical flesh, is wrapped around it because it's the less dense form that is in everything. Without the program, the flesh would not do anything. And it's the subconscious and the conscious. But the subconscious is the genetic program that you receive, that the flesh embodies, which you get as part of the sperm and the egg package. Excuse me. So the way you get rid of them is to label them and tell them to get the heck out when you recognize them coming. How do you recognize them coming? They always play tapes. It's always the same tapes, pretty much. Although they'll play them in different circumstances, so they'll have a different appearance. And it always comes as usually as justified. Or the more it happens in our heads, the more we allow it, then the more justified it feels. So that person deserved to hear that, that sly remark, or that sarcasm, or that accusation, or that condemnation or whatever that was, because they're not doing the right thing. They're not acting correctly. So it's my place, since I see the correct behavior, to tell them where it's at. Well, only if you're asked to do that is it really appropriate. Again, distinguished between what is life threatening behavior on someone else's part, then that's a different story. If you're trying to stop somebody from doing something abusive to somebody else. And life doesn't have to be just strictly a physical life. If you're abusing somebody else mentally, you know, coming to someone's defense is also part of the formula of giving to others as you'd want them, doing to others as you'd want them to do to you. Like you'd want someone else to come to your rescue if you were being mentally abused and you didn't know how to stop it. You were sucked into it. But of course there's a dividing line there to where you know, we can say that mental abuse is basically getting somebody hooked on drugs. Well, it certainly can be, but relative to the fact that we can be hooked on a lot of things, it's hard to really find fault and condemnation on the people that are doing the hooking unless it's related to that individual's relationship to the kingdom of God, the kingdom that created us, the many-membered crews that actually orchestrate and design the evolutionary processes and even design the Big Bangs that happen a lot and maintain them and modify them as needed so that they work for the overall gardening projects that they involve themselves with. That's what the kingdom of God does. Their job is to create nature, what we call nature. Now it's creation because it's both, but it's both like biological, elemental, and frequency based. So mental. Now, so back to the influences. So when you see them coming, like get you all mad or something, then the first step is to not respond physically. When you can get to a place to where you're not responding physically, now people are going to say, well, isn't that like holding it in though and it's going to burst? No, it's not holding it in when you change it to another form and you look for the positive in it. Now, is that Pollyanna? Well, yes, it can be a little Pollyanna, okay? But it's better to convert it into something Pollyanna without losing the reality of what you're dealing with, I think. I can't say Tiendo said this. Than to just give into it and have the angry outburst. But the best thing I believe that maybe Tiendo would say to convert it into is into recognition that it was a lesson and that stopping it actually got control of your physical body, which includes the mind, having full control of it, which actually puts you in better stead to be receptive to the teachings of your older members. We all have older members, whether the older members are physically present with us or not, that's the issue. And the second issue is whether they are mentally with us or not, or spiritually with us or not. And the only way they are spiritually with us or not that we can recognize is if we're asking them to be spiritually with us or not. If we're not asking, then, well, bottom line is, if we're asking for help, that's a form of asking. If we're asking to, that's a beginner form of asking. That's an elementary, but necessary step in asking. But if we're asking to be of their service, thy will be done on earth. And how can I be a part of your will being done on earth? What would you have me do? Then we're moving into the high school, into relationship with the creators that created our whole environment and everything to begin with, and our genetics and everything. Okay, so then there's additional. Well, if we're doing that, then I believe they find a way for them to give us a soul, and that can be on the spot at any moment. Give us a soul when we're actually, and we might have received the soul many years ago. In fact, if we're a seeker, we've probably been given a soul. However, the physical vehicle is also bred to be a seeker, and that takes thousands and thousands of years. And what comes back each time is the structure, the database structure, which is biologically stored in the genetic structure, but the essence of which is a program, and that program is part of the vine of all the physical vehicles. It's the strain, the genetic strain, has a program with it. And that becomes individualized in each new leaf that is born off that vine, or off that branch. The vine on the branch. Notice that vines grow off of branches, and those vines can potentially become branches then. That's the same way the next level set it up for the genetic structures, for the mental part as well as the physical part. And so, yes, it all is connected, it's all interrelated. Okay, the next step in getting rid of these vehicles, in getting rid of the boogers, after we've accomplished not letting it come out of our mouth and moving it into more of a positive nature, is what you're aiming for is not even letting it register. And I believe T called that identifying it by its smell. I'm not positive that that's what they said about it, but I'll tell you why I think that. It's because you get to a point that the more you exercise this muscle to where you hear the thought and you cut the thought off. You don't want it to be in your head, so you don't hear a second thought associated with the thought that you know is negative. Okay, now this can be used to get rid of positive information too. You can cut off new information because you're afraid of it, and that's what the Luciferians teach us to do. So they teach us to isolate our thoughts to where we have no next level thoughts. So the ultimate meditation would be to want to know what the Chief of Chiefs has to say, and to be in a listening mode for them. And that listening mode can't stop after we're sitting in a quiet position, a quiet, gentle, harmonious frame of mind. That needs to be basically a state of mind that we maintain as much as possible, but at least every 11 or 12 minutes, coming back to it. It's all stages. It's all stages. Get to a point to where you can have it on your mind all the time that you're aware of the Kingdom of God, all the members, and that you want to let, like everything out of your mouth, you want to be with their approval. And so therefore you've kind of got like a radar, and you can't count on it. You can never count on it 100% while you're in the human vehicle. As soon as you do, then you become arrogant. And that takes on a whole new form of negativity. That becomes self-righteousness. But we get to a point to where we can hear part of the thought and then hear none of the thought. So you can cut it off mid-sentence and then you can get rid of it altogether. And what you do, when you do that, you don't stay on it. You put a lot of force into it, and at first that's going to be like, get out of here. Spirit of frustration, spirit of influence of short temper, get the heck away from me. I don't want to have that response to anybody else, in my head or externally. So get the heck away as soon as you see it coming. And you begin to feel what it feels like. And there's a lot of thoughts that all feel the same. And sensuality especially, like all the different forms of sensuality, but sexuality in particular I'm talking about right now, it has a signature smell to it, signature. It's interesting that Lady Gaga is talking about the smell of it, if I understood that right in one of those songs. Comes in handy having a 14-year-old that is your responsibility as someone to bring up in this world. Anyway, so I think I'll leave it at that for the moment.